welcome back to Mason Sports Insider. I am Tyler Byram alongside with Dan Ward. We have some more updates on some spring sports for you, as well as looking at our Mason Sports Insider Bracket Challenge.
But first, let's get you started with how Greg Flournoy did in the NCAA Championships in Madison Square Garden. He went into the match on Thursday as an unranked underdog going against the number 15th ranked wrestler in the nation, Riders' Chad Walsh. Walsh and Flournoy had competed in the EWL Championships, and Walsh had defeated Flournoy there, and Flournoy would go home to take third place. Unfortunately, it was more of the same for Flournoy, who dropped his opening match 11-2 to Walsh, but his day wasn't done just yet. He then had another match on Thursday in which it was an elimination match going against Northern Illinois' Andrew Morse. The Patriot left it all out on the mat, realizing that this could possibly be his last match of his collegiate career, and he would go on to win 7-6 after falling 6-0 early to advance to the matches on Friday. He continued to represent George Mason very well on Friday, but unfortunately he'd fall to Columbia's Marcus Scheidel 6-4, thus ending his collegiate career. He finishes with a 2-4 record in the NCAA Championships and 95 career wins as a collegiate wrestler. Head coach Joe Russell said, quote, "It's been an honor to be Greg Flournoy's coach."
Yeah, congratulations to Greg Flournoy. I mean, going to the NCAA Championship, representing Mason quite well, 2 years in a row for him doing that. It's fantastic to see our wrestling program be able to do that at such a national stage. And, I mean, great trip to Madison Square Garden as well.
Definitely. It'll be interesting to see who steps up next year, though, because that is a big name to lose. A lot of wins for somebody else to have to take the reins for.
All right, now we'll move on to the men's volleyball team, who took a break from EIVA play to face off against two Conference Carolina opponents on their last out-of-conference road trip on the season. They started off the weekend by beating King University by a score of 3-0 for their first matchup in program history. They started with a competitive first set and won 27-25, but Jack Wilson would close out the deal for the Patriots in the match. He had 20 kills overall in the game, as well as Christian Elias having 13 and Johnny Gomez having 11 digs. The remaining two sets were controlled completely by Mason, who finished the match hitting 35% and out-digging King by the dig score of 36-21. Moving on to Saturday night, they faced off against the leader in Conference Carolinas in Pfeiffer, who Mason beat earlier on 3-1 on the year. Mason opened up the match, winning the first set 25-22. However, Pfeiffer, the Falcons, would respond by winning the next two sets in the second and the third to take a commanding 2-1 lead over the Patriots. Mason would have to win the fourth, which they did, to force a decisive fifth set. Brian Negron found Paco Velez for majority of the night as they were a dominant duo connecting. Velez had 23 kills, a career high for him, as well as Brian Negron matching his career high in assists with 57 as they would take the fifth set 15-12, winning the match 3-2. In the match, Johnny Gomez once again had 17 digs, leading the team, and the Patriots leave the weekend 2-0 against Conference Carolina opponents. So
Good start. 4-game winning streak now for the Patriots. They seem to be getting on a little bit of a roll. Good to have some wins against out-of-conference play. It's, again, kind of interesting with the EIVA and volleyball starting conference play, and then you take a little break, and then they'll get back into it. But definitely good for them to be doing well, and for Paco Velez, new career high, 23 kills. That's impressive.
Yeah, it's great to see everyone coming back, being healthy, because we know Velez had a shoulder injury earlier on. Radoslav Popov hasn't exactly been 100% coming back, but I mean, he had, I believe, 8 digs in the matchup against King College. He did. I mean, the whole team is doing quite well. The only one that isn't back yet is Graham Gresham. Still waiting on his return. But they're 9-10 overall, 3-4 in the EIVA. Again, 2 maybe boost-up wins in the middle of the season against Division II teams in King and Pfeiffer. Pfeiffer, though, a very good team. They're normally competing for the national championship, getting that automatic qualifying bid by winning their conference. So
that's good. That's good. I mean, I don't know what else to say. The volleyball team's doing well, and like you said, they big wins against a tough D2 school. So that's the biggest thing. Why don't we take a look at the standings for right now, because there are some updates that definitely should be looked at.
Yeah, St. Francis, they got a huge win over Penn State, their first loss on the season against the EIVA. Also, St. Francis' first win, the Red Flash beating Penn State in program history. Absolutely phenomenal for the Red Flash. A lot of people thought Mason would be the one being able to pull that out this year.
Exactly, but St. Francis 13-6, best record overall in the EIVA right now. They're playing very well, and Mason's still sitting right there at that 5th spot, just a game back of New Jersey Institute of Technology for that 4th and final playoff spot. So going to be a fight to the finish, to say the least, with this very crowded EIVA standings.
Yep, Mason, they will play one more out-of-conference matchup. That is this Tuesday at home against UC Irvine, a team that Mason faced earlier on in the year and lost to at BYU. And that one, UC Irvine, nationally ranked, always competing for the national championship. So it will be a big test for the Patriots, especially if they could maybe sneak out a win against Irvine.
We'll now move on to the struggling baseball team, to say the least. They had 5 games this past week, beginning with a Tuesday game against Longwood, in which they won 13-6, thanks in part to the shortstop Ryan Tassone's 4 RBI game. Kent Blackstone also had a 2-run home run and 3 runs scored in that game. Then on Wednesday, they traveled to VMI for an offensive explosion in which they would fall, however, 17-20. Garrett Driscoll, the catcher, had a great game, however, with 4 hits, 6 RBIs, and 3 runs scored. So 1-1 during the week. They would then start off a 3-game series against Long Island University. They had a doubleheader on Friday. They were able to win Game 1 9-8 on a walk-off single by Tim Quinn, but the offense then went silent in Game 2 as they dropped it 11-2. So that set up the rubber match on Saturday, but it was more the same. Patriots would fall 10-7, thus going 1-4 in their 5, or 2-3 rather, in their 5 games last week. They're now only 5-15 on the season, and when you look at the number of runs they gave up this past week, 6 runs, 20 runs, 8 runs, 11 runs, and 10 runs. To say the least, pitching has been the problem for the Patriots so far this season.
Yeah, I mean, when teams are scoring 10, 11 runs against you, I mean, there's nothing, I mean, you can't rely on your offense to do that every single game. I mean, at the most you can expect is 3 to 5 runs, and pitching side hasn't been able to get it done. I mean, Mason graduated a lot of starting pitchers the past 2 years. A lot of guys going away, Johnny Williams, Anthony Monfusco, and a lot of players are going to have to fill in for it. I mean, all they really have right now is Tyler Zombro, and we were talking before, and even he has been inconsistent. Yep. For the Patriots thus far. So fortunately, Atlantic play hasn't started yet, but I mean, it's right around the corner this weekend, so they're going to have to figure it out in a hurry if they want to compete.
Yeah, exactly. Zombro and Williams, John Williams' little brother, they've been both very solid pitchers, but again, it's just been too inconsistent. When you're reading off numbers like 5.5 ERA, 10.8 ERA, yeah, some of the numbers may be skewed depending on how many appearances they've been in, how many innings they pitch, but there's nobody really that you look to when you look at the roster and say, he's going to give us a great game today, without a doubt, 100% shut down the team. Zach Mort has been great out of the pen, but he's more of a one-inning guy. He can't be coming in trying to shut down the team day in and day out. So I don't know what they need to do, because the offense has been great. They've been scoring runs, keeping the team at least in the game, making for some very long games as well, 3-hour-plus games consistently. But the pitching staff just got to figure something out, boys, because pitching, you can't win games if you don't have pitching.
Yeah, well, let's talk about a good note for them, though. Ryan Tassone, he's coming in for the injured Brandon Gum at shortstop. He's been playing very well for the past 2 or 3 weeks. And
he's actually won the starting job over from Gum. He's been the consistent DH instead, and Tassone, as I said earlier, 4 RBIs in a game earlier this week. He's been playing out of his mind now as the leadoff hitter with one of the top averages on the team. And he's actually the leading hitter right now because Brady Acker, who injured himself a couple of weeks ago, is still trying to rest up and get better. So he's been playing very well. A lot of new guys have stepped up. Greg Papatak has had a great year. Garrett Driscoll is driving through the ball and hitting it very well. So the offense looks good. And generally speaking, opened up and down the lineup. Some guys struggling, like Tyler Nealon, Trevor Kelly, had great years last year, and you kind of expect them to continue this year. They're struggling a little bit, numbers slightly down, but for all the other guys have stepped up to pick them up the slack, and I don't expect them to continue to have struggling offensive years. So the offense looks phenomenal with all the players that have come in and stepped up, but it just goes back to that pitching.
Well, you know what I'm saying about the head coach? All that matters going forward is Atlantic 10 play. Doesn't matter what you did at this point in the season. So let's move on to another hardball hitting team, the softball team, to give you their first update on the year, who is 10-9 on the season. In the preseason poll for the Atlantic 10 coaches poll, the team actually selected to finish 5th in February after last year's postseason run, in which they finished unofficially 3rd place after beating Dayton, the top team in the Atlantic 10 last year, in the second game of the tournament by 8-5, but then going on to lose to the eventual champion Fordham in a double elimination tournament, and then falling to Dayton once again 5-4. However, they were the last team standing that wasn't in the championship game, so that's why I give them third place. However, most recently the team hosted the Cherry Blossom Festival here at home for the Patriots. That did not stop the Patriots from getting 2 wins, 9-1 over Canisius and Cornell 7-2. A lot of games, however, were canceled due to the impending snowstorm that we were getting, which it's March. I don't understand where that is coming from. But anyways, the team kicks off Atlantic 10 play this weekend. Again, they are 10-9, and they will also start off against Rhode Island, which the baseball team is facing against as well. So, softball team, it seems to be like they're picking up exactly where they left off last year after having a great postseason run in the A10 tournament.
Yeah, great postseason run, great overall season last year for the softball team. They've carried it nicely into 2016. They were a team that I was really excited for to watch in the spring season because I knew that they were going to be a team with a lot of power, a lot of great players on the team, and so far so good. 10-9, right at that 500 mark, but out of conference play a lot of good competition, and once they head into conference play, I think they've got a good shot at being one of those top 3 teams fairly easily.
Yeah, their offensive numbers have been off the charts. I believe they have at least 6 games where they've scored 4 runs or more so far, or no, 7 games that they've scored more than 4 runs out of the 19 they played. Casey, Priceless, Seymour, they're doing it again this year, both of them with over 330 batting averages. They've started in every single game, and 20 and 21 hits respectively between the 2 of them. That's just incredible numbers for them at this point in the season. That's more than 1 hit a game. And also starting pitching, Sarah Kleinfelter has been doing a fantastic job just like he did last year. And how about the freshman, Marina Biltelich?
Yeah, coming in, freshman names stepping up. Seems like they've been doing that a lot. Whoever the recruits are for the various sports, they've been doing an excellent job this year because we've seen a lot of freshman names step up big from the fall sports and through the spring sports. So great job, Marina Vitalich. Looking at her numbers, 7 complete games in 9 starts. That's pretty good.
pretty good to say the least.
51 innings pitched. She's a workhorse. You can sit, definitely rubber arm perhaps. I know you can pitch a little bit more innings when you're throwing the ball underhand as opposed to baseball players, but it doesn't matter. Those numbers, that's impressive for anybody.
Yep, the team's overall ERA is at 3.77.
Can we sign up the pitching coach for the baseball team? Oof, 3.77. That's a dandy to see.
Yeah, well, let's go ahead and look on the Atlantic 10 standings to see how they've been doing it this year. They haven't played against any of these teams yet, but currently sitting at the top, or near the top, at second place. That's a good place to be at this point in the season. Only team above 500 is St. Joseph's with Atlantic 10 play starting this weekend.
Definitely the A10 struggling a little bit in the out-of-conference play. Only 3 teams over 500. St. Joe's, George Mason, and Fordham. So Mason setting themselves up nicely for the A10 play. And a little bit surprising seeing Dayton down there at 5, 7-10. They're always a solid team. UMass St. Bonaventure, not really that big of a surprise towards the bottom just because they're up in New York and Massachusetts. Can be tough to play those games when you're still pretty cold.
Yeah. Dayton will always turn around, though. It seems like they do that in every single sport. It always seems like they play the best teams in the country, and then all of a sudden they have a bad record, and everyone's like, oh, maybe this year we can pass Dayton, and then they always shoot up to the top and dominate the A10 in every sport.
Yeah,
starting to get a little annoying.
They'll find a way. Now moving on to the Mason lacrosse team, who had 2 games this past week. First was on Wednesday against the Georgetown Hoyas. Mason trying to get the first win in program history against the Hoyas after losing the first 12 dating back to 1994. They took a 6-5 lead into halftime, and then after scoring 1 of 2 goals in the second half, the Hoyas then went on a 7-goal streak, and that really opened things up, and the Patriots, although fighting back hard in the last few minutes, could not stop the deficit and could not overcome the deficit, and they would fall to Georgetown 15-12. Jacqueline Spalding, Alexa McGovern, and Brooke Lorber led the team with 3 goals apiece. That then took them on into Saturday's game, in which they took on the Longwood Lancers in a very cold and rainy match. Thanks to an 8-point day by freshman Chachi Callahan and a dominating offense performance by the Patriots overall, the Patriots beat Longwood 16-11. Jordan Stanowich had a career-high 4 goals, and Jacqueline Spalding continued her dominant scoring streak with another 3-goal game. So the team 1-1 on the last week. huge offensive game against Longwood and so close to beating Georgetown. Unfortunately, 0-13 now against the Hoyas.
All these spring sports, our offenses are just absolutely incredible. Men's volleyball team, they're hitting very well the past couple of weeks. Baseball is doing well offensively. Softball, I mean, they're averaging basically 6 runs a game, and then 16 goals in one game. That's incredible for the women's lacrosse team. Great job for them. I want to give a shout out though to the goalkeeper, Mackenzie Duffy.
Mm-hmm.
She wasn't expected to be the goalkeeper at the end of last season, to say the least, but she stepped in. She's done quite well. I mean, look at her record on the year. She's performing for the Patriots.
Exactly, and actually in that Longwood game, they were going against some of the best goal scorers in lacrosse in Sarah Butler and Katie McHugh, who each had over 20 goals through 8 games. Sarah Butler averaging 3 goals a game, and Mackenzie Duffy came up with huge saves, especially in the first half, that allowed the Patriots to get to a huge 10-goal lead. And you're right, I didn't give her enough credit. She's been phenomenal. It's just so easy to look at the offense when you see 11 goals scored by Callahan, 11 goals scored by Spalding. Spalding, of course, led the team last year with over 2 goals a game a season ago, so she's just continued her dominance. And you see 7 scorers with 4 or more goals, 6 players with 6 or more goals this season. So the offense rolling for the lacrosse team, who is projected to finish 3rd in the conference, and right now doing just that.
Yeah, and lacrosse, only the top 4 teams finish. Actually, did that change? VCU just started up, so
VCU
now we're at 10
joining
teams.
lacrosse, so 10 teams. We're going to have to double check that to
Yeah.
see if they make any changes now that there's 10 teams in the conference.
Yeah, well, it's been 4. Mason made the championship last year. Went on to lose, of course. I mean, lost to Massachusetts. No shame in that. But they're going to be there again, and they're going to compete. Jesse Morgan, 2nd year as a head coach, been doing a fantastic job for the program. As you can see, getting in great recruits. No one transferred with the change of coaches.
Huge.
So, yeah, that's a huge, I don't want to say momentum, but just solidarity between the team, having everyone there and buying into the new system, and all the freshmen performing quite well. Let's go ahead and look at the Atlantic 10 standings presented to you by GiantKiller.co. And I mean, of course, at the top we have UMass. No surprise there. Then there's Richmond and George Mason. Richmond's always been that 2nd-tier team right behind Massachusetts, and then it looks like it's going to be an all-out battle for those final remaining spots.
Yeah, exactly right. Duquesne expected to finish ahead of Mason. I may have said that they were projected to finish 3rd. Mason is projected to finish 4th on the preseason rankings. But right now, Duquesne seeing they're at 5th, although only a couple games back. And VCU, despite being their first year, battling up in 7th, 2 wins on the season. Not too bad. Good start to them. Not sure if VCU has a lot of recruits there, or if just people are naturally good at lacrosse or whatever it may be, but they're playing solid as well. And unfortunately, lowly St. Joe's down there at the bottom, still maybe dealing with their basketball team, only 1-6 in lacrosse. But now they'll have a chance to maybe take the reins and be the shining team.
Yep, again, Atlantic 10 play coming up later on. Again, that's all that matters, unless, of course, you're Massachusetts, and if you were to somehow lose the Atlantic 10 championship, maybe get an at-large bid into the NCAA tournament. Let's go ahead and move on now to the tennis teams. And due to, a crazy weather weekend, they only played 2 games, the first one being against Georgetown earlier in the week and LaSalle on the weekend. In the game against Georgetown, the Patriots lost by the score of 5-2. They took home the number 5 and 6 singles matches by Daniel Gutierrez, who won a tightly contested 3-set victory, but as well as Giuliano Bozanio, who won 3 sets as well. However, the Patriots would go on to win against LaSalle 7-0, winning every single match, including the doubles matches, in which they were 3, and you only get 1 point if you win the majority. And the tennis team's kind of been consistent, and now I believe this is the final starting rotation for the singles guys. And at the top we have Aaron Capitel, Joe Hill, Jimmy Lange, Tanner Blaine, Daniel Gutierrez, and Giuliano Bozanio, who's just that. I mean, there you go. I mean, that's been the lineup for the past couple matches, and I believe that is what it's going to be going forward as they try to make a push towards the A10 tournament.
Well, that's great to finally have a solidified lineup, because that will really help them gel and get the chemistry going and get the momentum, be able to ride that wave into the rest of the season.
Yep, on the year they are 6-8. So now let's go ahead and move on to the women's tennis team, who played the same 2 squads that the men's team did, but also faced off against the University of the District of Columbia. The team would lose to Georgetown just like the men's team by the score of 7-0, but they would get their first A10 victory on the season against against LaSalle by a score of 7-0, and then beat the UDC by 7-0 as well. Along with the men, the women seem to be finding a consistent lineup in singles play from the 1 through 5 singles position. At the top, we have Brittany Pilkington, Sydney Green, Ezu Erdenbat, Morgan Yang, and at 5 we have Olivia Lacey Thompson getting back into the starting lineup after missing a couple matches for the singles spot. But that 6th spot still wide open for a lot of players to compete for.
Yeah, and having a solidified rotation also allows players to build confidence, knowing that where they're going to be match in and match out. So that'll really help the team as well. So the fact that the tennis team's finally solidifying their rotation, at least that's what it seems, very good for the team going forward, and especially the women's team winning week this week. So hopefully they'll be able to carry that momentum and win some more games this week.
We'll have C going forward for both squads.
But that'll wrap up this week's edition of Mason Sports Insider. Let's take a look at this week's upcoming schedule.
Yeah, but we got quiet week, relatively speaking, to what we've had the past couple weeks. Only a couple of matches. Again, like I said, it starts off though with that men's volleyball huge matchup against UC Irvine on Tuesday.
Yeah, and then the baseball team will have 4 more games this week. The first at JMU on Wednesday before hosting A10 rival Rhode Island Friday, Saturday, Sunday in their classic 3 o'clock, 2 o'clock, 1 o'clock starts.
Yep, and the track and field team will travel to the Raleigh Relays, and then softball team, as we said, also facing off against Rhode Island. Tennis team will be taking on GW on Saturday as well. Men's volleyball team, another getting back into EIVA play against the University of Charleston, West Virginia.
So a lot of conference games this week, a lot of important games therefore, so come on out and support for all those home games.
And the weather will be better. It's supposed to be. So make sure you get out a lot of home games for Mason, so go out and support your teams. Meanwhile, let's go ahead and talk about our Mason Sports Insider Bracket Challenge, which thank you to the 14 people that signed up. Well, okay, 12, because we're contractually obligated to sign up. But anyways, we are listed as one of the top groups on ESPN. We are in the top 50 percentile for as far as groups are concerned, which I think is awesome. I mean, good.
I think it's cool.
Yeah, good to our guys. I mean, heck, you guys have Dan in 10th place. How about that? Currently leading the pack is Brian Dombrowski, whose team is, or the bracket is called Little Rock That Could. He had Little Rock going very far, was one of the few teams in our entire competition that picked Little Rock winning their first round game. He has a total of 500 points. He's in the 99.7 percentile on all brackets filled out on ESPN. Congrats to Brian. He actually has Maryland winning it all. I don't know about that
a tough
one.
pick.
Yeah. Anyway, second is Matt Iman. His bracket's called M. Iman, 490 points, 99.3% overall, and he had Michigan State, so he's going to start dropping down as we get in later rounds. Yeah. Meanwhile, third place, yours truly. I'm a little bit behind those guys, 450 points. I'm 92nd percentile. I have North Carolina winning also. My team is still in it. I believe they still have a great shot at doing so. I mean,
without a doubt.
ACC, 6 teams in the Sweet 16.
Yeah, setting a new record.
And then let's talk about Dan Ward, 10th place out of 14, only 370 points. And you also had Michigan State winning it all.
Yeah, I may have gone a little upset happy this time.
Upset happy, that bodes well for you in the first round.
Yeah, first round, sure. That's fantastic. But it's then when you continue that upset happy train into the Sweet 16, I'm down to, I think, less than half of the teams in the Sweet 16. So in that Michigan State game, as soon as I saw them lose, I basically threw out my bracket and said, let's go for all the upsets. So right now, it looks like most of you guys will be beating me, but Tyler's still up there. See if you can bring him down.
Well, you have to rely on your teams to do that. It's your own picks. Reminder: first place gets the George Evans bobblehead. Second place gets a Magic opener bottle opener by Extreme. Last place, autograph photo of
the real
Mason Sports
prize.
Insider Dan Ward. I believe that's going to my girlfriend who picked them all for mascots. Her bracket's called Ash Ketchum. 40 points, and she had the Huskies winning it all. Meanwhile, in the NCAA, looking at the Atlantic 10, Syracuse defeated the Dayton Flyers in the first round. A surprising game, 70-51. Flyers, I believe that it just ever since the game that they played Mason and they kept their starters in when they were up 20-25, it just wasn't the same for the team. VCU beat Oregon State 75-67, then lost to Oklahoma in a thrilling game, 85-81. And your St. Joseph's team, they beat Cincinnati in a crazy game that, if it was, they may not have played Oregon if the guy's fingers wasn't weren't that long. Eventually lost to the Ducks, though, 69-64 late last night.
Yeah, so unfortunately, no more A-10 teams in the men's, but still have some women's action who started also last week. Kansas State defeated number 8 George Washington, which I was really surprised by.
Yeah.
I thought George Washington had a chance to make a little bit of a run. I think they were in the same bracket as UConn, so their dreams probably were going to be dashed in the second round anyway, but very surprised that they couldn't pull out the first round win. St. Bonaventure, however, did pick up the pick in the women's after losing out to the men's. They did win their first round game, but unfortunately would lose in their second round to Oregon State 69-40. And Duquesne as well made it to the second round. They defeated number 8 Seton Hall 97-76. Talk about points scored, and they will face number 1 UConn
Yeah.
tonight because it's Monday. So you'll know the results on when you eventually see this.
Yeah, I mean, I'm all for it, go A-10, but they aren't beating the Huskies.
Yeah, I can't
I'm
really-
sorry, Dukes, but
Yeah.
yeah. All right, well, that is all we got for you this week. Next week, we would introduce to you the outdoor track and field teams as well as the golf squads. So make sure you do not miss out on those episodes. Check out our graphic and medium provider, Giant Killer, at their website, giantkiller.co. Until next time, I am Tyler Byram, and this is Dan Ward, and we will see you guys next time. That went long. We were ahead of
So
schedule
we were on pace through, I think it was
until bracket.